Good morning. Good morning, and it's good to see you all here today. The past few weeks, we've been talking about what's called the Lotus Sutra, or the Dharma Flower Sutra, a highly influential text in East Asian Buddhism. And last week we talked about the parable of the impoverished son. The next chapter in Jean Reeves' translation of the Lotus Sutra is called the simile of the plants, or he calls it the parable of the plants. And the chapter is relatively short. It starts out with the Buddha complimenting the four disciples who had recited the parable of the impoverished son, and saying that the Buddha agreed with their assessment. And then the Buddha goes on as the narrator to talk about plants. And I'll read a few sections of this. I think this chapter is highly poetic, so the language is important. Kashyapa, one of the disciples, suppose that in the 3,000 great thousand-fold world, growing on mountains, along rivers and streams, in valleys and in different soils, there are plants, trees, thickets, forests, and medicinal herbs of various and numerous kinds with different names and colors. A dense cloud spreads over all of them, covering the whole 3,000 great thousand-fold world, and pours rain down on all equally and at the same time. The moisture reaches all the plants, trees, thickets, forests, and medicinal herbs, and their little roots, little stems, little branches, little leaves, their medium-sized roots, medium-sized stems, medium-sized branches, medium-sized leaves, their big roots, big stems, big branches, and big leaves. Every tree, large or small, according to whether it is superior, middling, or small, receives its share. The rain from the same cloud goes to each according to its nature and kind, causing it to grow, bloom, and bear fruit. Though all grow in the same soil and are moistened by the same rain, these plants and trees are all different. The rain from the same cloud goes to each according to its nature and kind, causing it to grow, bloom, and bear fruit. Though all grow in the same soil and are moistened by the same rain, these plants and trees are all different. You should understand, Kashyapa, that the Tathagata is like this. He appears in this world like the rising of a great cloud, and he extends his great voice universally over the world of human and heavenly beings and the asuras, just like the great cloud covers the 3,000 great thousand-fold world. In the great assembly, he speaks these words: I am a Tathagata, worthy of offerings, truly awakened, fully clear in conduct, well gone, understanding the world, unexcelled leader, trainer of people, teacher of heavenly beings, and people Buddha and world-honored one. Trainer of people, teacher of heavenly beings and people, Buddha, world-honored one. Those who have not yet been saved will be saved. Those who have not yet been set free will be set free. Those who have no rest will have rest. And those who have not yet attained nirvana will attain nirvana. So this is a passage in which there's a simile between the Buddha, whoever he may be, and a cloud. And there is a simile between rain, moisture, water falling from the clouds, and the Dharma. And a simile between plants of various kinds, of all various kinds, and us, such that the different plants, the small plants, the large plants, and the middling plants, are all nourished by the rain, by the Dharma, by the same rain, the same Dharma. But they manifest themselves in vastly different ways, some as small herbs, some as grasses, some as trees, large trees, and smaller trees, and shrubs. Throughout this passage and throughout the entire Lotus Sutra, there is this tension between the universal and the particular, between the one and the many, where the one Dharma, the one reality, the Dharma, and when Dharma was translated into Chinese, they used characters that they were familiar with. And they, for the word Dharma, used words like the way or the law. And in this simile, there is stability and uniformity in the law, in the Dharma. But there is vast diversity among the plants. So the plants manifest themselves according to their causes and conditions. It is just as that great cloud rains on all plants, trees, thickets, forests, and medicinal herbs, and each, according to its nature and kind, equally receives the moisture so that it grows and develops. So too, the Dharma preached by the Tathagata always has one character and flavor, namely liberation, separation, and extinction. which amounts to the attainment of all-inclusive wisdom. That triad of liberation, separation, and extinction are translated in different ways. The word in particular, separation, is sometimes translated as detachment and sometimes as abandonment. So there is liberation from greed, from hatred, from the various delusions to which we are prone. And there is abandonment of unwholesome ways, with extinction of the primary delusion to which humans fall heir, and that is the delusion of a fixed, separate self. Now, it's one thing to be aware of those concepts intellectually, to be aware, and I think the notion that things are impermanent, things are, that there is no actual fixed self, that we're changing all the time, that we're a product to large measure of causes and conditions, and that greed, hatred, and delusion are unwholesome, non-productive, harmful, causing suffering. It's one thing to be aware of those things intellectually. It's another thing to allow them to penetrate deeply. To actually penetrate deeply into the bone and allow them to permeate one's life. So in this simile, the Buddha, whoever the Buddha might be, is expressing the Dharma by way of various skillful means to allow the moisture of the Dharma to penetrate to the roots of the various plants so that they can manifest themselves to their full potential, so that they can mature, flower, and fruit. You should know, Kashyapa, it is like a great cloud rising over the world, covering everything everywhere. A beneficent cloud full of moisture, lightning flashing across the sky, and the sound of thunder reverberating afar, bringing joy to all. The sun's rays are hidden, and the earth becomes cool. The cloud descends and spreads, as if it might be touched or plucked from the sky. The rain falls everywhere, coming down on all sides, flowing everywhere without limit, reaching over the face of the earth, into the hidden recesses of mountains, streams, and steep valleys, where plants and trees grow, and medicinal herbs, big trees and small, 100 grains, rice seedlings, sugarcane, and grapevines. All are moistened by the rain and abundantly enriched. The dry ground soaked, and both herbs and trees flourish. By the same water that comes from the cloud, plants, trees, thickets, and forests, according to their need, receive moisture. All the trees, superior, middling, or small, Each, according to its size, can grow and develop. Roots, stems, branches, and leaves, blossoms, and fruit in brilliant colors. One rain goes to all, and all become bright and shiny. Though their bodies, forms, and capacities may be large or small, the moisture they receive is the same, enabling each to flourish. The Buddha is like this. He appears in the world like a great cloud, universally covering all things. So in this chapter, cloud is associated with a positive effect, a beneficent cloud, a good thing. And oftentimes clouds are depicted as kind of a negative thing, like raining on my picnic, or the Joni Mitchell song, now they only block the sun, they rain and snow on everyone. So many things I would have done, but clouds got in my way. Or during my training, there was a common trope that one resident or another might for a while have a dark cloud over his head or her head, meaning that he or she seemed to attract disasters. But in this simile, in this chapter, clouds are a positive feature, a wholesome thing. And in fact, we would be in deep trouble without clouds. We've had a relatively dry summer and a relatively dry fall. We had a very nice rain yesterday, and we'll probably get some more rain tonight. But when you have a very dry summer or a very dry fall, you realize how important rain and clouds are. This one-flavored Dharma is to be practiced according to one's ability, just as those thickets, forests, medicinal herbs, and trees, according to their size, grow lush and beautiful. It's to be practiced according to one's ability, just as those thickets, forests, medicinal herbs, and trees, according to their size, grow lush and beautiful. The Dharma of all the Buddhas, always of the same flavor, causes all the world everywhere to gain what they need. Practicing it step by step, all can gain the fruit of the way. Suggesting in this little passage a gradual process of growth, of maturation. And one can see here, because of its emphasis on diversity, the attraction of the Lotus Sutra to lay practitioners who are in a highly diverse environment. In a monastic environment, there's the intention of keeping things very regular and uniform. So everyone wears the same clothing, wears their hair the same way or shaves it off, abides by the same schedule, eats meals at the same time and in a particular way. But in the lay world, people dress much differently. They look differently. They wear their hair any way they think they ought to. They keep their own schedule by and large. So there's this wonderful variety of individuals in this world. And I'm struck, and perhaps I still have a naive sort of honeymoon view of the food pantry where I'm volunteering, but there's such a range of people there, and they all seem to complement one another. There are people who are among the volunteers who are sort of exceedingly friendly and happy-go-lucky. There are people who just show up reliably, but sort of need to be told what to do. There are people who are a little bit grumpy sometimes, but exceedingly organized. There's one man in particular who I thought had some sort of developmental problem because he never spoke. Until recently, I heard him speak quite fluently. He was just quiet, but exceptionally efficient. And also abided by safety practices better than anyone else. So amidst all of this, amidst all these different kinds of personalities, it can come together very much like a symphony orchestra comes together with the various instruments. But within this parable, within this simile, there's also talk of the one moisture, the one water. Water is water. They all the plants need water. And there's not just haphazard relativity. There is this one reality that we're all dealing with. There is really something there. And it has a character of stability and uniformity. That we can choose to be in harmony with or not. But the potential for growth, for maturity, is within everyone. So that's a few comments about the chapter of the plants. In some ways, it's kind of a simple simile to think about, but there is some depth to it. And I wonder if you have any perspectives on these passages. And in particular, who is the Buddha? Who is the cloud? Clearly, we're the plants, but how does the Buddha appear? I think I'll just leave you with that, and we'll break up into smaller groups and get back together in a few moments. Thank you so much for listening today.